Let's talk about the jugular vein of the global economy. Seriously, there's this one single narrow strip of water, and if you squeeze it, pretty much everything could come to a grinding halt. We are, of course, talking about the Strait of Hormuz. So, if you're thinking about a potential conflict with Iran, what comes to mind? What do you think is its most powerful weapon? You know, the one thing that gives it the absolute most leverage on the world stage.
You're probably thinking a nuclear program, right? That's the obvious answer. But the analysis we're digging into today argues that's not it. Not even close. Iran's most powerful weapon is something else entirely. And it's something they've had for a very, very long time.
So what is it? Well, that ultimate weapon isn't a bomb. It's not a missile. It's a place. A geographic choke point so tiny you couldn't even fit the country of Luxembourg inside it. It is the Strait of Hormuz. To really get why this is so powerful, you have to wrap your head around the scale here. The Strait of Hormuz is this incredibly narrow channel of water, just 40 kilometers wide at its tightest spot. Every single oil tanker coming out of the Persian Gulf has no choice but to squeeze through this one tiny passage, and it's all happening right under Iran's nose. Okay, so why does this one little waterway matter so much? Well, because it's not just any waterway. For all intents and purposes, it is the main artery for the world's oil supply. Get this, an incredible 20%, that's 1/5 of the entire global oil supply passes through this single choke point every single day. We're talking trillions of dollars in business flowing through here every year. This is the route that gets gas to your car, fuel into airplanes. It literally powers entire economies. And that concentration, that's the key to its power. There's no other single route on the entire planet that even comes close to handling this kind of volume. It's just a massive amount of economic power all squeezed into one tiny geographic location, which of course makes it a massive point of vulnerability. And who relies on it? Oh, just a few small players. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Iraq, Kuwait. Yeah. All the major oil and gas producers in the region are completely dependent on this one single exit to get their product out to the rest of the world. Their entire wealth flows directly through Iran's backyard. Okay, so knowing all that, the analysis we're looking at walks through a pretty frightening what-if scenario. What would actually happen if Iran decided to just turn the key and lock this gate to the world? Well, in this scenario, things escalate fast. I mean, breathtakingly fast. Day one, a joint US/Israeli attack kills Iran's supreme leader. Day two, Iran retaliates immediately. And then on day three, it unleashes its ultimate weapon. It shuts down the Strait of Hormuz. Imagine you're on one of those massive oil tankers. Suddenly, the radio crackles to life with that chilling message from the Iranian Navy. Any ship that tries to pass will be dealt with. Just like that, the world's oil artery is clamped shut. Millions of barrels of oil are now trapped. The economic shockwave, it's immediate, and it is brutal. Global oil prices skyrocket by 27%, and gas prices jump by a staggering 50%. The cost of this conflict is felt instantly by literally everyone. And the pain just ripples outwards across the globe. European taxpayers are suddenly on the hook for billions. The huge economies of India, China, and Japan start to sputter. Fuel shortages begin to paralyze countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh, while gas prices go through the roof in Nigeria. In a flash, Iran's move has the entire world in an economic chokehold. But, this whole idea of using oil as a weapon, it's not new. There's actually a really powerful historical parallel to this, from about 50 years ago. Back in the 1970s, Saudi Arabia's King Faisal used an oil embargo to put the squeeze on Western nations over their support for Israel. And guess what? It worked. It forced a major geopolitical shift. The scenario today is basically a playbook of that same strategy. Use your control over the world's energy to force your opponent's hand. So where does this incredibly high-stakes confrontation lead? Well, the analysis suggests there are really only two ways this whole thing can possibly end. The first outcome? It's a win for Iran. The global economic pain becomes so intense, so widespread, that countries all around the world put immense pressure on the United States to de-escalate, to end the conflict just to get the oil flowing again. But then, the analysis brings up a second, much darker possibility. What if this was all a trap? What if Iran closing the strait wasn't a surprise power move, but was actually the intended result from the very beginning? Yeah, this theory suggests a kind of four-step playbook. First, you bait Iran into a war. Second, you provoke them into using their ultimate weapon, closing the strait. Third, you just wait. You let the world economy crumble, and you let everyone blame Iran. And finally, the US sweeps in as the hero, framing its intervention as a mission to save the global economy.
And this is basically where the scenario leaves us, with two powerful adversaries completely locked in a standoff, and the fate of the entire global economy just hanging in the balance.
The US president makes his position crystal clear, framing a potential attack not as an act of war, but as a gift to the world, a necessary action to restore order.
But Iran's new leadership is totally defiant. In the face of these threats, they issue their own vow. The blockade will hold, they will not surrender, and they will avenge their fallen leader.
So what is it? Is Iran's control over the Strait of Hormuz a brilliant defensive tool, a last resort that gives it real leverage against superpowers? Or is it a predictable liability, a trap that its enemies can spring whenever they want? That's the question at the very heart of this global choke point.